Tell me exactly what's happened.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. And he's said he just came from a neighbor's house, and we know there's been problems at this neighbor's house. He's emaciated, he's got tape around his legs, he's hungry, and he's thirsty.
As criticism around the 8 Passengers channel grew, things inside the family were already shifting. At first, Kevin Franke had been present and seemed to support Ruby's parenting, but in 2022, the couple separated and Kevin moved out. It's unclear whether he was trying to distance himself from the situation or if something else led to the separation, but after he left, the situation appeared to escalate. Around that same time, Ruby became closely involved with Jodi Hildebrandt, a licensed clinical counselor who ran a program called Connections. The program presented itself as a form of life coaching focused on accountability and truth, but over time it began to resemble something much more extreme. Jodi taught that disobedience, especially in children, was a sign of deeper moral failure, often describing it as manipulation or even evil. Her approach emphasized strict control, harsh consequences, and complete obedience. Jodi's professional record had already raised concerns years earlier when her license was placed on probation after she shared confidential client information with the LDS Church and Brigham Young University, but she continued working and eventually became deeply involved in Ruby's life. After shutting down the 8 Passengers channel, Ruby began working alongside Jodi, promoting Connections through social media and presenting themselves as mentors to other parents. The tone of Ruby's content shifted from documenting family life to instructing others on how to parent, and the advice became noticeably harsher. According to investigators, this is when the treatment of the children escalated significantly. Punishments went beyond strict discipline and turned into prolonged deprivation. Food and water were withheld for extended periods, and the children were forced to perform physically demanding tasks for hours or even days. Some of these tasks were done outside in extreme heat without proper protection, leading to severe sunburns where the skin blistered and peeled. The children were also told repeatedly that they were bad, that they were possessed, and that the punishments were necessary to correct them. Over time, the children became more isolated. Neighbors reported seeing them less frequently, and some of the younger children were pulled out of school. There were also reports that they were being left home alone. Ruby's oldest daughter, Shari, had already distanced herself and had attempted multiple times to alert authorities about what was happening, but no action was taken. Part of the difficulty was that there wasn't enough visible evidence at the time, and laws around parenting made intervention more complicated.
Taken away for 7 months and then you give it back like a couple weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that.
You've been sleeping on a beanbag.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October. And they gave my room back like 2 weeks ago. Oh, I'll give you the reason why I lost my bedroom. I think so. I think this is the reason. At least this is the reason that's been in my head. It's pretty funny, but now that I look back, I mean, it's pretty depressing.
No, we never told our viewers.
That I woke Russell up at 2 in the morning and told him that we're going to Disneyland and he has to pack. And he got up and made his bed all neatly and then packed all his clothes in a suitcase. And then he walked out the door and I'm like, Russell, he was like, what? And he's all happy. Has his sunglasses on. And I was like, we're not going to Disneyland. And he started crying and hitting me. And then he went back to bed in tears and then...
So that was not the reason you lost your room, but that was
the other reason is because I pointed a BB gun at his face.
Pointed a BB gun at his face and hung him on the basketball. It's not funny. Basically, Chad.
Like the day I got home too.
Chad came home from Anasazi and.
Russell was like, I want to try dunking the basketball, and I lifted him up on the rim. And left him there. We shot 3 minutes, and he was just hanging on there.
Do you think it's funny? Because
and then I walk out.
If you think it's funny, then that was 7 months ago. Maybe you need longer without a bedroom.
It was not funny.
On August 30th, 2023, when 12-year-old Russell Franke managed to escape from Jodi Hildebrandt's home in Ivins, Utah. He made his way to a neighbor's house and asked for help.
He says he just left through the porch at the neighbor's house. Her name is Jodi Hildebrandt, and she lives 2 doors up the street.
Out here in Cayenne, the houses are far apart.
Yeah, out here in Cayenne, the houses are far apart, so he walked just under a block to get to our house. He rang my doorbell and asked me to call the police.
Does he seem to be under the influence of drugs or alcohol?
I don't think so, but he's very thirsty, and
Need an ambulance?
I don't think he needs an ambulance. I'll let the cops decide that, but his ankles are taped up, and he won't tell us why.
Okay.
But he has duct tape around each ankle. Yeah, there's sores around them. I think there's a good chance he's been... Oh, and he has them around his ankles. I mean, his wrists as well. Okay, this boy has been... He needs... This kid has obviously been... I think he's been detained. He's obviously covered in wounds.
Okay. Let's get the paramedics headed over that way, okay?
Oh, that's a good idea, too.
When police arrived, they followed his directions back to the house and found 10-year-old Eve inside in a similar condition. Both children were malnourished, dehydrated, and had visible injuries. They were taken to the hospital where doctors identified multiple concerns, including physical wounds, severe dehydration, and clear signs of psychological trauma. Investigators later determined that the injuries on their wrists and ankles were caused by restraints, including handcuffs, and that the duct tape found on their bodies had been placed over the wounds. The wounds had been treated with household remedies like honey and cayenne pepper before being covered. After the 2 children were rescued, police began searching for the remaining minors. They went to Ruby's home, forced entry when no one responded, and found the house empty. Shortly after, 2 more children were located at the home of an associate connected to the Connections program. Ruby had asked this woman earlier that day to pick them up from a recreational center, claiming there was a family emergency. The woman cooperated with police and was not charged. When the 2 girls were found, they appeared hesitant to go with authorities, which investigators believe may have been influenced by the teachings they had been exposed to. Part of the ideology promoted by Ruby and Jodi involved distrust of outsiders, including authorities, framing them as dishonest or harmful. This type of thinking is often seen in highly controlling environments because it discourages victims from seeking help. Not all of the children responded the same way. Shari, the oldest, reacted publicly after the arrests with a brief statement expressing relief that action had finally been taken. Soon after, both Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt were arrested and charged with multiple counts of aggravated child abuse. During the investigation, authorities discovered a journal kept by Ruby that documented her thoughts and actions. In it, she described her children in extremely negative terms and justified the punishments as necessary. Investigators believe that both women saw their actions as morally justified and part of a belief system that framed suffering as a form of correction. The journal also revealed plans to escalate the situation further, including moving the children to a remote area of land in Arizona where they would live in isolation and perform labor as part of what Ruby described as natural consequences. Those plans were never carried out because Russell escaped before they could happen. That moment, when a child walked to a neighbor's house and asked for help, is what ultimately exposed everything. In December 2023, Ruby Franke pleaded guilty to multiple counts of aggravated child abuse. As part of the plea agreement, she was required to detail the treatment of her children over an extended period of time. The information revealed the full scale of what had been happening inside the home. One of the most serious aspects involved the prolonged physical abuse of her 12-year-old son. He was forced to perform exhausting physical tasks for hours and sometimes days at a time, including wall sits, carrying heavy boxes, and repeated outdoor labor. Over time, this escalated into being forced to remain outside for extended periods in extreme summer heat without shoes or protection. He suffered repeated sunburns so severe that his skin blistered and peeled. He was denied adequate water during this time and was punished if he attempted to drink without permission. Food was also restricted, and when he was fed, the meals were minimal and significantly less than what others in the household received. He was isolated from other people and denied access to any form of entertainment or distraction, including books and writing materials. After attempting to run away, the level of restraint increased. His hands and feet were bound regularly, sometimes using handcuffs on both his wrists and ankles. In some instances, the restraints connected his limbs in a way that lifted parts of his body off the ground, causing additional strain and injury. These bindings caused deep wounds where the restraints cut into his skin and damaged underlying tissue. Instead of proper medical care, the injuries were treated with household remedies and then covered before restraints were reapplied. There were also specific incidents of direct physical harm, including being kicked, having his head forced underwater, and having his breathing restricted. Beyond the physical abuse, there was a consistent psychological component. He was repeatedly told that he was evil, that he was possessed, and that the punishments were necessary for him to improve. He was made to believe that the abuse was an act of care and that obedience was the only way to avoid further punishment. Similar conditions were described in the charges related to his younger sister, who experienced both physical and emotional harm under the same system. Around the same time, Jodi Hildebrandt also pleaded guilty to multiple counts of aggravated child abuse, making Ruby's testimony against her unnecessary. Details from Jodi's plea confirmed that she had directly participated in the abuse, including forcing the young girl into physically painful situations as punishment. Both women were eventually sentenced to prison, each receiving multiple consecutive sentences that could result in decades of incarceration, depending on how they are served. During sentencing, Ruby expressed remorse, stating that she had believed her actions were justified at the time and that her understanding of right and wrong had become distorted. Despite this, questions remain about the extent to which she was influenced versus acting on beliefs she already held. Her defense argued that Jodi had manipulated and isolated her, gradually reshaping her worldview and encouraging increasingly extreme behavior. They claimed she had been separated from her family and support system and pushed deeper into the ideology promoted through connections. However, others point out that many of the patterns seen in the abuse had been present long before Jodi became involved. Ruby had already shown a tendency towards strict and sometimes excessive punishment, and her oldest children had already begun distancing themselves prior to that relationship. Kevin Franke, who had been separated from Ruby during the most severe period of abuse, later stated that he had not been aware of how far the situation had escalated. He had not seen his children for an extended period leading up to the arrests, and described being shocked when the details became public. The separation itself was reportedly influenced by Ruby, who had convinced him that he needed to stay away in order to address his own issues. He later filed for divorce in late 2023. The case raises ongoing questions about responsibility, influence, and how situations like this develop over time. Whether Ruby was primarily driven by her own beliefs or further pushed by Jodi's influence, the outcome was the same. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.